welcome to Beyond Biotech, the weekly podcast from Labiotech. I'm Dylan Kassane and this is episode 206 for the podcast. The life sciences industry has always had one great meeting place, a few days in November where the deals get done, the partnerships form, and the direction of the industry quietly shifts. For more than 3 decades, that place has been BioEurope. But this year, something is changing. BioEurope has always been the destination for BD professionals and dealmakers. In 2026, it's expanding, broadening its scope to become what the organisers are calling the epicenter of biotech, with new content tracks covering regulatory strategy, clinical development and manufacturing, new registration options, and a deliberate push to bring the entire biopharma C-suite into the BioEurope room. My guest today is one of the people driving that transformation. Claire Macht is Senior Portfolio Director at Informa, and she's been helping to build BioEurope for nearly 20 years. We're going to talk about what's changing, why, and what you can expect when the event returns to Cologne this November. Claire, welcome to Beyond Biotech.
Thanks very much, Dylan. Very happy to be here.
Claire, BioEurope's coming up. Let's talk about it. It's 32nd edition this year, which is just remarkable. What has kept it relevant for so long? What makes it grow over all of these years?
I think a number of things. One, probably the most important, is that BioEurope has grown with the biotech industry. It started in 1995 was the first edition, and at that point in time, biotech involves completely different kinds of company, completely different geographies, and who was at the event was very different from who comes currently. I say different, but really it's been an expansion of that community of the biotech industry. I mean, it started out as a trade mission, actually, from the US to Germany, because Germany was where the biotech pharma were at that point in time. And it has grown from there as pharma have developed in other countries, as biotech has developed globally. BioEurope has acquired a global audience. I think another important reason that it's grown is because it moves around to a different location each year, and in that way brings in a different flavor of each biotech hub in Europe. Sometimes it's not the largest biotech hub. It doesn't necessarily have to be so. As long as there's a strong ecosystem in the location, and we certainly see that in Cologne, where we are this year, that community adds something to the event. And the relationships that come out of a particular locale continue over the years, and people are able to meet each other at the BioEurope in 5 years' time or 7 years' time. We all know drug development has a long timeline, and it's been really rewarding to see those relationships build over the 32 years of the event.
And the attendee numbers are going up as well every year. This isn't just a flash in the pan event where the same people turn up year on year.
Yes, it's interesting to see the kind of both retention as well as turnover that we get at BioEurope. We do have a very high retention rate. There's a core group of people who come every year, and we're always delighted to welcome them and to see them again. But I think for a lot of the industry, especially for small biotech companies, they time their attendance with specific milestones that they're reaching. They'll come one year, they'll know next year that actually this isn't the time for me to be, public facing, reaching out to people. We need to be concentrating internally. So they come back in the third year where they're doing a fundraising round, or they're looking for a specific kind of partnership or a specific kind of service. And I think that balance between a core of continual attendees who come year after year after year, and a a reflection of the company creation that's taking place within biotech, the evolving partnerships that evolve over a decade, 15 years even. That's also an important reason why BioEurope has grown with the industry and reflects that growth.
It's growing with the industry, but it's also in a transformation this year as well. I saw the phrase up on the website there, the epicenter of biotech. What does this mean to you? What are we trying to signal with this sort of positioning?
Well, to me, an epicenter is where everything starts. And that is exactly what we aim for BioEurope to do. It's where a deal starts, an investment starts, a relationship starts, a conversation, a challenge potentially. But it's also a place where the activity resonates. And I think for us, that's the even more important effect that BioEurope needs to have, that ripple effect outwards of, the people you meet. Those relationships are not just a flash in the pan, a nice to meet you, and I'm never going to speak with you again. Those are the connections that keep happening year after year at BioEurope, hopefully. But it's a relationship that's built. It's someone that you're going to do business with, and that you might potentially also be on the dance floor with at some point. The effect of BioEurope should be reverberating through the industry, not just at the event, but throughout the year. So being carried on into 2027 next year, but also to other events that people go to and in their particular businesses as well. So we're looking for that impact. And for me, that's what epicenters is really defining.
That ripple effect, that expansion is a really nice metaphor. But in practical terms, the whole program there is expanding as well, the content program. What provoked that expansion?
It's an interesting question. We've actually been thinking about this as a team for quite a while. The core of BioEurope is, of course, business development. It is partnering. But certainly, I'd say over the last 5 years post-COVID, and definitely in the last 2 years, a lot of the people who need to be in the room, who are building a company strategy, especially for younger biotechs, early stage biotechs, aren't necessarily business development people. They are clinical development, they are regulatory affairs, they are the people mapping out a manufacturing strategy. Those particular functions need to be involved earlier in the process of any drug development. Their decisions, that strategy approach, is becoming more and more important simply because those specific areas are changing so rapidly and so extremely, I would say, in many cases. Understanding this, we wanted to make sure those people were part of the conversation. And I think, especially coming out of last year's BioEurope, following the plenary session with David Louvre, who's CEO of Ipsen, and Jeremy Levin, where they were quite open about, Europe needs to step up. There is a space for a European type of innovation, which is different from innovation happening in Asia and happening in the US. There's a space for European innovation to really shine, and the biotech industry needs that as well. And listening to that conversation, we realized that BioEurope, there is the potential for BioEurope to be playing a role in Europe stepping up. And we're not a trade organization. We were not, so we're not we're not an investment bank like JPM. We are, to some extent, a neutral platform that has credibility within the industry. There can be that convening of leaders where there can be discussions of those really hard questions of, what do we do about MFN? What do we do about tariffs? and the push to bring all manufacturing back to the US. How do we continue serving patients globally when there's a lot of geopolitical push and pull in terms of where innovation happens, where manufacturing happens? And we see BioEurope as playing a leading role in fostering those discussions and hosting those discussions. And in order for them to take place, it can't just be the business development crowd in the room. We need to be bringing everyone in the industry together.
This is a really big expansion, though. You're going from 3 content tracks to 7. Can you walk me through what are the new tracks? What are they meant to bring to attendees?
So we have our regular business of biotech, therapeutic insights, and ecosystem innovation tracks still, and we'll continue to have them. The first additional new track, the big picture track, as we're calling it, I would say isn't really new. We've always had plenary sessions at BioEurope and are continuing to have them, just in there's going to be more of them. And we want the big picture plenary series to really focus on, I would say, 2 things. New areas in the industry, which might not necessarily fit very specifically into, say, a therapeutic focus. Areas like longevity, areas like women's health, which need to be discussed, are definitely areas of exploration and growth in the industry, but aren't necessarily a very neat fit tab A into slot B as we understand therapeutic areas. But I think the second thing that we want to discuss in those plenaries are new industry dynamics, things like questions around pharma productivity, supply chain, the innovation gap, big geopolitical policy questions as well. I think we can't avoid those. We don't want to avoid those. Those need to be talked about and discussed. And we want to be hosting conversations that are providing potential solutions for some of the hurdles or walls that are going up within the industry. The other 3 tracks, we're focusing on what we see as those 3 areas that haven't really had representation at BioEurope before. On the regulatory affairs side of things, clinical development, and biomanufacturing. And for biomanufacturing, this is, I think, we see this as the great overlap between commercial, regulatory, and clinical strategy. They all kind of bump into each other and impact biomanufacturing. So all of these discussions are interlinked. But if a company is looking to develop a long-term commercial strategy, biomanufacturing kind of needs to move up to become one of the number 1 things to discuss. On clinical strategy, I mean, this is now a clinical development strategy is now seen to be as much to do with funding and cash flow as it is to do with the actual science and clinical trials behind this. So dealing with questions about the global nature of running clinical trials and their increasing complexity. Where does new regulation come in on that side as well? In terms of getting drug approval, what data can you use? Where does it have to be from? We've heard a lot of conversation about that. And then on the regulatory side of things, I mean, the FDA is in the news every day for the last 2 years, pretty much. But also in Europe, you've got the first part of the Biotech Act out just before, and actually kind of during BioEurope last year. And we've got part 2 coming out as well. In Asia as well, we have changing regulatory issues. There's a lot going on in a global industry. You need to have ins and understand not just how each of those individual elements work, but how they work together as well. So for those 3 tracks, again, some very interlinked conversations and overlaid, of course, with conversations about partnering, about investment, about supporting innovation in biotech hubs in the ecosystem, as well as all of the modality discoveries as well. That creates, I think, a much more holistic biotech industry program than what we've had at BioEurope before.
So with this expanded content program, you've also got a new content-only registration pass this year. Who would take that up? Who's the target there?
There's two groups that we're really keeping in mind with the introduction of the content only pass. First is there are going to be professionals from the clinical side, the manufacturing side, the regulatory side, who haven't considered coming to BioEurope before because they haven't seen something specific for them within the program. They may not be that interested in partnering, but they want to be part of those discussions around their particular topic area where they can contribute something that will help build company strategies. So this would be a new group of attendees who may not have been to BioEurope before, whose colleagues may have, but they haven't. So content only pass is definitely geared towards that group who want to be part of those conversations, but don't necessarily have to be in the 30-minute partnering meetings, which again, we're anticipating will still be very much focused on deal making. And the second group, I think, is very much on the people, the companies that have been to BioEurope before, who come every year or come every other year, thinking of, well, who else within my C-suite actually needs to be here? We know the conversation is expanding. I'm sure boardrooms will be having these conversations amongst themselves. It's becoming more imperative that those conversations are happening almost in real time as relationships are developing, as new connections are being made. And it's that kind of expansion of the within companies that are already company into new elements of the C-suite, whether that's the CSO, the CMO, the COO. Certainly operations is becoming more and more important as well. Having that group come and join the community.
Bio this year, you mentioned before you're coming back to Cologne, 9th to 11th of November. Why Cologne? What does a city like that have to offer the event like this?
We're back in Cologne. We've been there a couple of times before. There's a critical mass of certainly transport. So access, very important. But Cologne and North Rhine-Westphalia, the state that it's in as well, has a very strong company creation ecosystem. It has great support for innovation. And we always try and pick locations that have a strong local ecosystem, and Cologne definitely fits that particular definition of what we see as a good BioEurope host.
The evening events, though, they're always a talking point too, and Cologne has some really interesting nightlife. The social side of BioEurope, what's it like, and why does it matter?
We take the social side very seriously. And it's not just the evening events, it's the social runs. We work with biotech bikers and do a networking bike ride on the Sunday. We will be doing that again in Cologne. We'll be offering morning yoga. We know that the social events are important because over 80% of the people who come participate in at least one of the social activities. And we've always recognized that people are just going to have a better experience overall if they're enjoying themselves. And they're going to be better business people if they're enjoying themselves. No one really wants to make a deal with someone who's in a really bad mood. we travel to all of these amazing places in Europe, all of these fabulous cities. And if we're not careful, people will arrive and leave without even knowing where they are. And so we also see it as important for us as a way to get people to connect with the place they are, with the community there, whether that's the biotech community or whether that's the people who live in the city. That also is a really important part. And so it is a chance to see something wonderful, whether that's art, architecture, to experience a bit of the history of the locale, to hear music from that particular place. It's really important that people are able to connect with the space around them, with the culture around them, with the people around them. We're not machines yet. I mean, for all of the efficiencies that AI is bringing, we as people, we still need time to recharge, and we need time to interact with people outside of a meeting room. A community isn't built in a boardroom. It's built on the dance floor or in the line for lunch or experiencing a musical performance with people. I could say it's built in watching your colleagues sing karaoke on a stage. There's a myriad of experiences that we want to offer people at BioEurope, and we see value in those social experiences as much as we see in the 30-minute partnering meetings.
For someone who might be just on the fence about attending, even after all of that, what's the pitch you make to them? Why should they be in Cologne this November?
Everyone you need to talk to is going to be there. I think, especially for younger companies, they get this advice a lot. You need to put in the legwork. You need to meet a lot of people, and you have to have the stamina that's going to get you to the end of that kind of cycle of meeting the right people, building those relationships in order to get to the deal, get to the collaboration, get to the memorandum of understanding or the investment. BioEurope makes that easier because everyone is in the same place. We have a platform that makes it simple to identify who you need to meet, who your priorities should be to meet, and a way that makes it simple for you to arrange a 30-minute talk with them. And then there's also a lot of possibility to informally meet people as well. So it doesn't all have to be structured. You can meet people on your own and take advantage of that. I always think of that at the welcome reception. When you walk in the room for the first time, you always can see the people who aren't super comfortable about being there on their own, not quite sure who to talk to. And I always think those are the best people to approach and just say hello to. Ask, what are you doing here? Where are you from? How has your journey been? Some of those first conversations, just to break the ice a bit, because once you've done it once, over the next 3 days, it just gets easier and easier. So that's usually how I would explain BioEurope to someone who's never been there and is looking to understand the experience a bit more.
And Claire, where can people go to learn more, to register, even explore sponsorships or exhibiting options?
Best place to go is the website, so bioeurope.com. This year, so Cologne is November 9th to 11th. And on the website, you'll be able to find information on everything from our agenda, speakers, if you're interested in exhibiting, in sponsoring, also in speaking. So our presentation window is still open for company presentations. All of that information's on the website, including contact information, phone numbers. You can get in touch with the team directly, and they'll be happy to help.
Claire, it all sounds fantastic. We're looking forward to being there in Cologne. Thanks for joining us today on Beyond Biotech.
I'm looking forward to seeing you there, Dylan.
That's it for this episode. Don't forget to check out all the latest news and analysis at Labiotech.eu. I hope wherever you are in the world, you have a great week ahead. Thanks for listening, and I hope you'll join us again next time for another Beyond Biotech.